Hi all, this is Shay Jose coming back at you with another tutorial. This month I'll be breaking down the process of my track Prometheus, which is actually the B-side of the Andromeda EP, which has been getting some really good support actually in the last couple of weeks. It's actually currently number 5 on the Beatport Top 100 Progressive House charts, which is great, and has been supported by the likes of Tiesto, Korolova, Miss Monique, Fatum, and a whole bunch of other people. If you enjoyed that first breakdown of the track Andromeda, I hope you can learn some techniques from this breakdown. I'll also be including some of the presets available for all my patrons to download for free this month. So yeah, without any further ado, let's get to it. So first and foremost, I just want to apologize if my voice sounds a little bit croaky and a little bit reverby. I've just moved into a new studio space and I'm still trying to get my sound absorption up on the walls, and I'm also recovering from a pretty bad cold. So yeah, so apologies if I do sound a little bit crap at the moment on the mic here. So look, if you haven't heard the track, this track actually broke into the top 100 progressive house charts as well. I think it reached number 63 in total, which is pretty good considering it was a B-side of a track. But what I'll do is I'll just play you a little bit of the bridge into the breakdown, and if you haven't heard the song or if you like it, you can actually go and buy it from Beatport, and then yeah, we can go from there, and I'll show you some of the elements. So here's a playback. Well, that's just a little bit of a preview of the track. My computer is actually struggling a lot to play all of these channels and record at the same time. I'm actually in the middle of upgrading to a new Apple Mac Studio. So this is still my old computer, which is an old Intel Mac Pro. So yeah, anyways, enough of gibbering along, so let's get to it. So I've covered the low end quite a bit in some of my other tutorials. I'm not going to go into it, but predominantly what I like to do is layer kicks, where I have a lot of the attack on one particular kick, and then a lot of the body on the other one, and just really kind of mix them both until I get a particular tone that I like on the kick. And then what I do is just compress them really hard. In this one, I'm mainly just using the Pultec EQ on the bus channel, basically just boosting a little bit and attenuating the low end a little bit around 60 Hertz, which actually gives it a nice little dip and a little bit of a raise in the lower frequency range, which gives it quite a lot of thump. Makes the kick sound quite nice actually. Really punchy, it really cuts through the mix quite nicely. The sub, as always, sub is always in mono. I don't really spend too much time on my subs nowadays. And if I go down the bottom here, this is the sub bus. I've actually split this up into a couple of channels. This is predominantly the main sub that's actually running through, which is in mono as well. And I've got a drone base actually, which has been routed to the same bus channel as well as the sub bus. So this song really is, and it goes back to I guess the previous tutorials that I've had, which is kind of that call and response. How do you keep your listeners kind of engaged throughout the production? So really what we've got here is an element of some lead sounds, which are running from this bus channel here. Let you hear them. And we've got the, I guess the response component down the bottom here in this metallic sound, which I've covered before. It's actually just a serum patch, which I'll actually give this out for you guys to, you know, to use in your productions. And it's actually quite a simple pattern. All it is just playing the root note, you know, and then going up, I think, an octave. Yep, going up an octave here and there to just give it a little bit more drive in particular sections of the progression. So when we play them both together, you really have that kind of choral response that's really, you know, that's really prolific in like progressive house at the moment. So hear them both together. And what you really want to do is make sure that you've got enough elements there to support the elements that are at the front of the mix, but not so many elements that are actually drowning out the sound. So you have to really be careful about your sound selection, which I've kind of done in this. If you actually hear what's actually playing here, we've basically got some FX, we've got these ARP sound, the bass, what else do we have? And the kick, really. Together in that drop, and that's why the drop has so much impact, really. And you can really tell how this actually all sits together. If we open up, where's Voxengo? Voxengo Plus. I might just take the L2. That might work. I just don't want my computer to die, but let's have a look to see if we can actually run the Voxengo. And just have a look at the frequency spectrum and how that's sitting when all this is playing. You'll actually see that there's particular peaks and troughs that are more accentuated in this particular part where the drop comes in. As you can see there, the kick is quite prominent. We've got a lot of low mids. We've got no highs because there's actually no hi-hat. So each one of these sounds has a particular space in the frequency range, which actually makes the mix actually breathe a lot better. And this is something that I've learned throughout time. And the more I mix my own tracks, the more songs that I've created, to actually really be really specific about the sounds that I'm using and whereabouts in the frequency range they are actually sitting. Where predominantly you want to have, you know, your drums and your hi-hats and all that sort of stuff sit kind of higher in the frequency range, which means then the synthesizers and the ARPs are not kind of sitting in that space. So actually everything kind of breathes a little bit better. And you will find that as you do that more and more, and you get a little bit more selective about what you're using and where you're using the sounds, that your mix will actually open up a lot more. So that old saying of less is more really comes into it. All right, so let's go back through some of the other elements. So we've got that kind of call and response part in there. The other big part of this track is the breakdown. Where what I've done in here, was it here? Let me have a look. I think it was here. Bear with me. Let's have a listen to see where it is, or is this one? Ah, it's here. Okay. So it's this lead sound, or this lead bus that I'm running here. So really that's all it is. If I was to open this, it's essentially a single note. So we're running this on G minor. And the way we're making that kind of flutter effect really is by using a auto pan. And it's the auto pan that's actually creating the entire movement in the sound itself. So that's the, let's go into the let's go into the frequency range, as you can see here. So essentially what we're doing is, if I was to just zoom into here a little bit more, you will see that the auto pan and the rate is what's actually changing, which kind of gives that you know, speed up and slow down kind of movement that happens in the progression. It's a really simple effect to create. It's actually used a lot. You're hearing a lot of the stuff that comes out of the Afterlife Records tracks. Anima's used this quite a lot. I think Masano. You can hear it in a lot of tracks, and really all it is, if you don't know how to do this within the synth, you can do this in multiple synths. In Diva with an LFO, you can do this also in Serum. The easiest way that I find is just keep it external, put an auto pan in, set the amount all the way to 100, set the rate, you automate the rate, set the phase to 0 and the shape to 0. And what will happen is, as this rate actually moves up and down, you will see this waveform down the bottom here actually change, either compress or expand. When it compresses, it gets loud, it gets faster. When it expands, it actually gets slower. So if I was to run this again, just take a look at the wave of the auto pan and you'll see how this actually runs. There's so many bands that have used this sort of trick. I mean, other memorable mentions that come to mind are like people like Bicep use this quite a bit in their productions. The good thing about actually running it through an auto pan, which I like, is the fact that you can actually stick it in a bus channel. You can actually run it on the bus channel if you wanted to as well. Or I actually froze it. I had to run it individually here because my CPU was just dying, but this is actually a layered synth. And you can run it that way. I mean, that's the other way. You can run it in the bus channel. It will do exactly the same to whatever signal's coming through, which is great. So just recapping, all it is just you play your notes, single notes, or it can be a chord, whatever you prefer. Stick an auto pan at the end of it, set the amount to 100, phase to 0, shape to 0, and then just automate the rate. It's as simple as that. Okay, so if we go back just before the drop, we'll hear the breakdown and basically talk about the elements that actually build up into it. So give you a listen of the breakdown. There, really all we're doing is just adding some nice pads in the background. We got a vocal sample with some ad-libs that are coming through, which is just adding some atmosphere in here. With a ton of reverb, and it's actually side-chained as well. And then we've got a compensating piano, which is like, this is a sound I created and then I bounced out to audio. I think I did this in Contact, but I couldn't keep the Contact instrument in here because it was just killing my machine. It's very, very quiet, but it's a real beautiful sound that actually allows you to kind of build up this. And as you can see, the auto filter is actually becoming louder and louder. And if I was to take it off, and to add some more atmosphere to it, I've just rerouted some of these to some return channels where I'm running some shimmer, some delay, a little bit of parallel compression, and some auto pan here. So if you listen to this on headphones, you're really going to hear this kind of piano crystals kind of bounce around in your head, which is a really cool effect, especially if you listen to this, you know, in a stereo system. Besides that, guys, there's not a hell of a lot in this track. Like I said, this is a really simple track with basically just some call and response elements. So what I'll do is I'll make some of these sounds are available for you on my Patreon for anyone who has joined to download this. If there's any particular elements in this track that you do want me to cover a little bit further, please just leave a comment below. Happy to do a follow-up video. But until next time, catch you around, and I suggest, if you haven't done so, subscribe to the channel. Make sure you follow me on Spotify at Show Jose, and or catch me on Instagram at Show Jose Official. All right, guys, take care.